gaining central influence and preparing queenside development smoothly. Mirroring the knight's development immediately contests central influence, setting the stage for an early pawn skirmish. 2c4 immediately stakes a claim in the center and prepares for kingside pawn advances. Embracing the queen's Indian structure, black aims for a kingside fianchetto, potentially outflanking white's center. Plausible development solidifying the kingside, aiming for eventual fianchetto and a robust pawn structure against black's queenside expansion. Developing the bishop here prepares for queenside expansion and eye-catching control of the long diagonal. Developing the bishop to g2 solidifies the kingside and prepares for queenside castling, a prudent setup against black's fianchetto. Embracing the queen's gambit declines structure immediately. Black boldly challenges white's central pawn chain and prepares to activate the queenside. Securing the monarch immediately prioritizes safety, allowing for a more aggressive central thrust or flank development later. Sharpening the fianchetto's reach, g6 now prepares to challenge white's central ambition. Opening the center challenges black's queenside pawn structure and opens diagonals for white's pieces. Opening the center with this capture immediately liberates black's queenside pawns for active play. Asserting central dominion, this knight aims to dominate crucial squares and disrupt black's queenside development. Exchanging the bishop frees up the d-file, but it weakens black's kingside pawn structure considerably. Exposing your king to the center pawn chain creates immediate positional pressure and potential attacking opportunities for black down the long diagonal. Developing the bishop to its most natural long diagonal offers a solid defensive structure while preparing for potential queenside expansion. Solidifying central presence, this knight prepares to support an eventual e4 advance, controlling key squares while maintaining flexibility. Securing the king allows focus to shift to contesting the central d-file and developing the queenside. This push seizes central space, aiming to dominate the middle and restrict black's pieces. Developing knights to central squares is often a sound idea, contesting the space white has claimed. Developing the bishop here aims to support the central pawn advance and eye the queenside, setting the stage for active piece play. Repositioning the queen to c8 aims to support the central push and potentially reroute to the kingside, but it momentarily neglects queenside development. Solidifying the queenside structure, this move prepares for further central expansion while maintaining flexibility. Unleashing the queen, this move ignites potential central conflict while challenging white's queenside space. Solidifying the center pawn structure offers white more breathing room for kingside expansion. Developing the rook to the central file establishes a strong defensive presence and prepares for potential pawn breaks later. Anchoring the rook on the open file signals an intent to generate counterplay and contest the crucial d-file, potentially igniting exchanges. Anchoring the rook on the open c-file now prevents white's pawn push and eyes the queen's side. Positioning the queen here prepares for a potential queenside expansion, aiming to exploit weaknesses created by black's pawn structure. Preparing a queenside expansion, black aims to contest the b-file and open avenues for the rook. Fortifying the central pawn chain and eyeing the d-file for pressure, white solidifies their structure. Liberating the queenside pawn structure for active play, this capture sacrifices a central outpost for dynamic counterplay. Liberating the bishop from the d4 outpost finally opens attacking lines. Solidifying the center's pawn structure offers a robust defense against potential pawn thrusts. Asserting queenside space while aiming to disrupt black's pawn structure on that flank, this move introduces dynamism. Venturing the knight to the edge can be a subtle repositioning, preparing a kingside leap or supporting a queenside push. Invading the opponent's territory, this knight disrupts black's coordination and threatens further incursions. A seemingly passive placement, this knight now anchors the queenside, preparing for potential pawn advances and bolstering the defense of the c-pawn. Sacrificing the bishop to disrupt black's kingside pawn structure and gain initiative. Reclaiming the knight from the open flank, black aims to connect the rooks and establish a more cohesive central presence. Attempting to pry open the kingside before black can reinforce it. The rook's repositioning aims to contest the now open e-file, potentially disrupting white's central aspirations. Repositioning the rook to the third rank aims to prepare a potential advance up the c-file or support a pawn push, creating dynamic pressure on black's queenside. Seeking counterplay, black repositions the knight to target weaknesses on white's kingside, aiming to disrupt the pawn structure. This move repositions the queen to eye the kingside weaknesses and prepare for potential pawn advances, aiming to exploit black's somewhat passive piece placement. Unleashing queenside dynamism, black seizes initiative, creating weaknesses black will exploit. Opening the c-file decisively, this exchange breaks open lines and forces immediate black reactions to defend against further advances. Opening a crucial file for the rook and challenging white's central pawn structure with tactical intent. Securing the open files becomes paramount, and this rook placement aggressively claims its share of the central battleground. Trading the rook opens a path for your knight to infiltrate the weakened queenside. Recapturing opens the c-file for your rooks and prepares for a potential breakthrough on the queenside. Breaking open lines is key, opening a path for the rook and potentially creating a passed pawn. Asserting dominance on the 7th rank, this pawn push aggressively probes black's queenside defenses. Asserting queenside pressure, the black queen embarks on a journey to exploit the open files and threaten white's somewhat exposed king position. Unleashing a passed pawn on the queenside, this aims to disrupt black's pawn structure and create dynamic imbalances. A desperate shot, aiming to disrupt the rook's dominance and perhaps create a flight square for the king. Securing the queen and preparing for potential counterplay by defending against the check is paramount. Sacrificing the queen to initiate an endgame, aiming to exploit white's uncoordinated pieces and open files. This king's trek into the center now opens lines for a simplified, potentially active endgame, where pawns become the primary battleground. Solidifying your pawn structure now addresses the slight spatial weakness and prepares for active piece play. Securing the outpost with the knight offers a formidable central blockade. Reclaiming central space with the knight allows for potential pressure on white's slightly exposed king. Advancing this pawn aims to restrict black's maneuvering space and prepare for a potential queenside expansion. Seeking to dislodge the knight and simplify into a favorable minor piece endgame, black aims to disrupt white's queenside structure. A decisive blow, forcing the black king into a precarious central position, sacrificing material for overwhelming positional dominance. The rook sacrifice rips open lines, fundamentally altering the board's tactical landscape. Unlocking a powerful rook's influence on the 8th rank offers a decisive advantage. The knight's repositioning on e8 aims to contest control of the crucial central squares, a vital strategic battleground now. Asserting dominance on the queenside, this pawn march aims to create unstoppable passed threats. Bringing the knight to the edge allows it to support potential pawn pushes or find refuge from exchanges. Pushing the passed pawn to the 7th rank initiates a decisive race toward promotion. Seeking shelter from the storm on the open file, the knight abandons its territorial claims. Seizing the passed pawn, this knight advance threatens to escort the 7th rank monarch deeper into trouble. Securing the king amidst the chaos prioritizes passive survival over active counterplay. Initiating a pawn storm to pry open lines and exploit the compromised king position. Escaping the bishop's former outpost, the king seeks refuge from the advancing pawns and the looming knight. The monarch advances, asserting kingside presence and preparing to defend the central pawns. A desperate attempt to invigorate the position by activating the f-pawn and challenging white's central pawn push. The king's foray forward aims to participate in the pawn race, but exposes itself to potential tactical skirmishes. Securing the king's immediate perimeter is a prudent step, anticipating any potential royal escapades. Clearing the way for the knight to disrupt black's pawn structure, forcing awkward exchanges. Securing the king's escape path is paramount as the knight retreats, preventing further immediate checks. The white king boldly marches forward, seeking to exploit its newfound space and influence the d-file. Shifting the king is a prudent step, seeking refuge from the advancing pawn and bolstering defensive lines. The monarch's journey to the center of the board begins, aiming to exploit the open files and potential weaknesses. Re-establishing the knight's influence on the queen side is a key objective now. The monarch ventures into the center, a bold gambit to challenge black's isolated pawn and exploit the open diagonals.